Hello, my name is Creighton Hughes, and today I will be talking about my semester volunteering at the Southern Heights Food Forest. To give a little perspective on what I did this semester, I'd like to give a recap of what the Southern Heights Food Forest is and what I was doing. So, like I said, I worked at the Southern Heights Food Forest, which is a community garden and multi-purpose space that changes the way a community eats, plays, and interacts. For example, a family or a group of friends could come to the Southern Heights Food Forest, hang out and play at their community garden, and eat and pick fresh fruits and vegetables while there. We did work to produce crops as well as improve the site for future seasons. Some of the examples of the interpersonal skills I was hoping to focus on at the food forest um, were be the first one, acknowledging personal strengths and weaknesses. This is something that I needed to do coming in because I needed to understand what work I wanted to do that could fit my personal strengths. For example, I'm not very good at the delicate details like designing signs or planting crops, but I'm great at moving mulch and moving dirt. So a lot of the work I did was set up and mulch flower beds after plants were put in. The second one would be initiating actions toward the achievement of goals. This is something that I really need to work on because although I'm great at completing goals, I'm not always the best at starting and planning goals. So coming in, I had a big goal to make a long-lasting impact on the food forest, and this was done by creating a permanent berm that helped retain irrigation and rainfall to retain water on the site. And this was initiated by me coming to my site supervisor and asking her what she thought I could do to make a long lasting impact. And that is one of the things that she gave me. And then I initiated actions by starting the process and building it and using her help to finish it. And my last one would be understanding leadership as a process. And this is something I wanted to work on because I never saw leadership as a role. I always saw it as something more than that. And so to understand leadership as a process, I focused on self-leadership because I feel like in order to lead others, you must be able to lead yourself. So to understand that leadership is a process, I focused on my self-leadership because I did not have a lot of oversight at the food forest. I could work when I wanted and I could do most of the work that I wanted. So this building self-leadership showed that leadership is in fact a process. Now, some of the contributions I did at the food forest could be probably grouped into two categories. The first one being manual labor. This includes the basic things you do in a garden or at a farm, which is mulching, weeding, harvesting plants. And the second one, which I felt was more important and helped me with my interpersonal skills the most, would be engaging with the public. Now, a good example of this would be when I took went around Lincoln, the greater area, to pick up leaf donations. And I met this wonderful guy who asked me what I wanted the leaves for, what we would do in the food forest, and what the food forest was overall. And I had to give him a little speech right then and there to help that. And I guess a more specific example of other things I would do that would fit in the labor category is one week we had to harvest a bunch of sweet potatoes before the frost hit because it would kill the sweet potatoes. So harvesting and basic stuff like that would be most of my work, but my personal favorite would be engaging with the public like I did when I was picking up leaf bags. So skill development was a huge part of my volunteering at the Southern Heights Food Forest, and I had SMART goals coming in that would outline this development. And the first goal would be that I want to be able to identify personal strengths and weaknesses in order to work more efficiently. And as you can see, this ties along with my interpersonal skills, and that is the point. And so identifying personal strengths and weaknesses in order to work more efficiently was a great goal because I knew I had to work efficiently to be productive at the food forest. And I think I did get it done because I was able to do my 20 hours while making some very meaningful contributions like the berms, like harvesting and planting and making a meaningful impact in the food forest. My second goal would be able to identify goals and initiate actions to complete these goals. And this was one of my harder goals to do because it's very broad. I could do anything I wanted, and I could do any action to initiate what these goals that I wanted. And so it took me a while to get involved with this. And I feel like if I were uh, able to do this again, I would be a lot more specific on what I wanted to achieve in these goals. But I was able to achieve some goals like the berms and like uh, some signs that I built and just making an impact on the local community. And I also wanted to understand that leadership is a process and is more of a title given to someone. And I was able to understand this, and this was probably the biggest thing I gained from the food forest, was that leadership cannot be a title given. I was a leader without be given a title. I was leading others, I was leading myself, I was leading the community that I was working in. And I think this goal was probably the most important goal that I made during my time at the food forest. And overall, I loved working at the food forest and working my hands, and was much more engaging than working at a simple soup kitchen or working at a thrift store or something like that. And I was able to use my problem solving skills and engineering design process on the berm and other projects like that. But I would have liked to spread my volunteer hours throughout the semester more evenly. And I would have liked to engage with the public a little more because that was my favorite part of this work at the Southern Heights Food Forest. And overall, thank you for listening to me for my presentation on the Southern Heights Food Forest.